If you're like most Power BI users, you want to know how to make your reports look better. So I went out and found a great looking report design concept, and I'm going to see if I can recreate it in Power BI. I'll show you everything I do from start to finish. I'm starting with this report design. Not the prettiest, I know. When I first started looking for inspiration, I went to the Power BI community's data stories gallery. But nothing really grabbed me. So I decided to go over to dribble.com. That's dribble with 3 B's. You can just type whatever you're looking for into the search. I had in mind a dark background, so I entered dashboard dark theme and just started scrolling. In case you're not familiar, Dribble is a site that features professional designers' work. I looked through a few designs before I finally settled on this one. Just a heads up that you may need to be logged in to be able to click through to see the full-size version. Sign up for an account is free. Now that I found my report design, let's see if I can recreate it in Power BI. Before starting, I want to mention that it's possible to create all the shapes in this report design as visuals in Power BI, but you'll get better report performance if you use a background image instead for most of the shapes. To create the background image, you can use any graphics program. An easy way to do it is by using PowerPoint. I'll start by choosing a blank presentation, then under Design and Slide Size, I want to make sure widescreen 16:9 is selected. That's important because the default Power BI report canvas is 1280 by 720 pixels, which translates to a 16:9 aspect ratio. You can customize that in Power BI, but for this report, I'm going to stick with the default size. First, I want to get rid of these text boxes, so I'll click and drag to select and hit delete. Now to give the report a little style, I want a background image. I like to use Pexels.com because the images are royalty-free and in most cases you don't need to give attribution, so it's one less thing to worry about. Here on Pexels.com, I'll search for abstract background. Now you can definitely waste a lot of time trying to find the perfect image. I'm just going to pick something. The way I say I can always modify it or even swap it out later if it turns out that I really don't like it. I'm going to choose this one. It has colors similar to the report design I'm trying to replicate, so I'll download that. Then in PowerPoint, I'll right-click on the blank slide and choose Format Background, then Picture or Text Fill, then Insert. I'll find the file, then click the Insert button. Because this will be in the background, I want to blur it a bit. I'll go to Format Background again, click the hexagon shape, then under Artistic Effects, I'll select the Blur option. And for maximum blur, I'll set the radius to 100. Before I start creating the shapes, something that's really helpful whenever doing a layout is to set up guides. PowerPoint by default has guides set up to divide the screen in half horizontally and vertically. Those are the dotted lines you see on the slide. But a better way to divide the screen is into thirds. The rule of thirds is a visual design best practice, and it's easy to set up in PowerPoint. If you go to slide size and choose custom size, you can see that the slide is 13.333 inches wide by 7.5 inches high. To set the vertical guides at thirds, that means you need to divide 13.333 by 3, which equals 4.44. Since the PowerPoint ruler starts at the halfway point of the screen and goes in both directions, just divide 4.44 in half, which is 2.22. Now, I'll drag the existing guide 2.22 inches to the right. The closest PowerPoint allows you to get is 2.21. Close enough. Then I'll right-click the gray area, choose Grid and Guidelines, and Add Vertical Guide. And I'll drag that 2.21 to the left. Next, I'll do the same for the horizontal guides. The slide is 7.5 inches high, and 7.5 divided by 3 equals 2.5, and half of 2.5 is 1.25. So I'll drag the existing guide 1.25 below, then add a horizontal guide, and drag to 1.25 above. Now I'm ready to create the layout. Let me take a quick look back at the report design to remember what I'm doing. Okay, time to add the shapes. To do that, I'll go to Insert, then Shapes, and choose the rounded rectangle shape. I'll click and drag to create the rectangle. Adjust it a bit. Flip back to the design. Okay, I'm just going to pull it up, then adjust the roundness at the corners. Now, I want to change the fill color, so I'll right-click, then click Fill and choose Black. Then I'll click Outline and select No Outline. Now I need to add another rectangle, so I'll go back to Insert, Shapes, click the rounded rectangle, click and drag, adjust that down a bit, change the roundness. I'm going to go to Fill. I'm looking for slightly lighter gray, maybe that one. That one's definitely too dark. I'm going to go with this one. I'll go back to Insert, Shapes, need another rounded rectangle. This is where the guides are going to come in handy. So I'm going to start this one right up against the guide. Again, adjust the rounded corners. Choose Fill. And now I'm going to go back to that gray that's a little darker. Remove the outline. And I need to go back to the other rectangle and remove the outline there too. Next, I need to make the two smaller rectangles. Since they'll be the same color as the rectangle I just created, I'll just copy paste. Here again, I'll use the guides to help me line these up. I want to center the rectangles vertically on the guide, just like that. Now, I'll copy paste that one and drag it over. As I drag it, you'll see the PowerPoint shows pop-up guides that help you align shapes with other shapes, and they even show relative spacing between shapes. That's one of the features of PowerPoint that makes it a surprisingly good design and layout tool. I'll adjust the corner roundness of each of these. There. Next, I need to make the long pill shape for the lower right. Since it's the same width as the rectangle above it, I'll just copy paste. Then adjust the height and drag it down and adjust the corner roundness to make the pill shape. Then I'll copy paste that again to create the inner pill shape and resize it to right about there. I need to change the fill, and to do that, I'm going to use a great tool that allows you to extract the colors from any image. If you go to color.adobe.com, in the upper left, you'll see an option called Extract Theme. To use this tool, you need to upload an image. So first, I need to take a screenshot of the report design. I'll click Windows-Shift-S to bring up Snip and Sketch, and I'll click and drag to select the report. Then I'll save the screenshot. In the Snip and Sketch tool, I'll click the Save icon, and I'll save that as design.jpg. I'll go back over to the Adobe site and upload the screenshot. With the screenshot uploaded, you can see several circles overlaid on top of the screenshot. Each circle corresponds to a color block below. I'll drag one of them down to the pill shape. A tip here is that when the color hues are close, it's not always obvious which circle corresponds with which square. So if you watch the color blocks while you move the circle, you'll see which one is changing. I'll click the copy icon to copy that color code, then switch back to PowerPoint. Right-click on the pill shape, choose Fill, then More Fill Colors. Here, I'll click to select the code in the hex box, then paste, and click OK. Next, I need to create the credit card image. To do that, I'll copy one of the smaller rectangles, paste that, and drag it over. I'll stretch it to make the credit card shape, then adjust the corner roundness. Now I'll flip back to the Adobe site, and I want to get the gradient colors for the credit card. So I'll pull one of the circles all the way over to the right, and the other all the way over to the left. And if you can't remember which color is which, like I just did, you can go nudge them each a bit so you can see the color blocks change below. I see which colors I need to copy, so I'll start with a darker color, click the copy icon, then switch back to PowerPoint. I'll click Gradient Fill. PowerPoint starts out with 4 colors for the gradient, but I only want 2. I'll click on one of the stops, then click the delete button to the far right, and I'll do the same for the other. Now I'll click on the stop I want to change, and in the color dropdown, I'll choose More Colors, then paste the code I copied into the hex box, and click OK. That's not the right gradient direction, so I'll go to Angle and change that to 180 degrees. I'll switch back to the Adobe site to grab the other color. Then, back in PowerPoint, I'll click on the other stop for the gradient. Again, go to the color dropdown, More Colors, paste the code, and click OK. Next, I need to add some text to the card, so I'll click on the text box tool. Then on top of the card, I'm going to click and drag to create a text box. I'll type My Bank, then drag to select the text, and change the color to white. To create the credit card number, I'll copy paste that, drag it down a bit, and reduce the font size. Well, that didn't work, so I'll drag to select both words, then just type the credit card number first. Now I'll change the font size. Here again, you can see that if you don't select the text, it will only change the font size for one of the words. So you always need to select all of the text in a text box if you want to change the font style. I still need to create the name on the card, so I'll copy paste the card number, drag it down. And this time, I'll select all of the text first, then type my name. Select all the text again, and make the font size a little smaller. Next, I'm going to create the MasterCard logo. I'll click Insert, then this time I'll choose the oval shape, and I'll hold down Control when I click and drag to constrain the circle. I'd like to get the colors right, so I'll do a quick search to see if I can find them. Well, that was easier than I expected. I'll copy the color code for red first, then back in PowerPoint, right-click on the circle, and the same as before, go to Fill, then More Fill Colors, and paste in the color code. I'll copy-paste that circle, then go back and grab the color code, then go through the same steps again. Fill, More Fill Colors, and paste in the code. Colors are looking good. I'll switch back to my design reference to see which color is supposed to be on top. Okay, so they're blended in the middle. I don't want to take the time to do that, so back in PowerPoint, I'll just take the gold circle and move it behind by right-clicking and choosing Send to Back, then Send Backward. That moves it down one position in the layer order of objects on the slide. I'll click to select both circles, then I'll nudge the position over slightly. There. And then I'll reduce the corner roundness on the card a little. Okay, done with the credit card. Now I'll Control-click to select the text on the card and the card itself, copy that, then paste and drag below. This is going to be a card for checking. So I'll change the card number to say Business Checking, and then I'll click to select the card. And over to the right, I'm going to change the gradient colors. And I don't need any specific color, so I'll just pick from the basic color palette here. I'll start with a darker orange, and for the other stop, I'll choose a lighter orange. That looks pretty good. I need one more card, so I'll copy paste the card and drag it below. This card will be for expenses paid using PayPal, so I want to do a search for the PayPal logo. Here's the official site. Let me see what they have. I'd like the logo with a name on it if I can get it. I'll grab this one here. Save that. Switch back to PowerPoint, then click on Insert, choose Pictures, and click this device. Click the logo, click Insert, and now, if I want to use a gradient again on this card, I'll need to get rid of the white background. I'm going to try the Remove Background feature. It's hard to tell from the preview, so I'll click Keep Changes. Well, that got rid of the white, but it also got rid of the name. Not sure why it did that, so I'll undo that. Now I could remove the background using a separate graphics program, but to save time, I'll just make the card white and use the PayPal logo as is. Over to the right, I'll click the bucket icon, then I'll choose Solid Fill, click the color dropdown, and choose white. Now I can drag the logo over the card, and I'll just resize it a little so it fits. There. I see that there's a faint outline around the logo. If I right-click on the logo, then choose Crop, I'm going to crop it in just a little. Then I'll click outside the crop, and there, no more outline around the image. Next, I want to group the objects that make up each card. I'll click Select up at the top to open the selection pane. And I'll Control-click each object that makes up the credit card, then choose Group. Over to the right, I'll rename that group Credit Card. I'm going to do the same thing for the checking card. Control-click to select each object, then right-click and Group. And I'll rename that group to Checking. And the same thing with the PayPal card. Select the objects, Group, and rename to PayPal. Now that they're grouped, I can right-click on the credit card and choose Save as Picture. This is a really great feature of PowerPoint because it lets you export everything in the group as an image. I'll save that as creditcard.png. Then I'll do the same for the other two cards. Right-click, Save as Picture, and Save as Checking.png. Then the same for the PayPal card. Here, since I don't need the PayPal logo file anymore, I'll just overwrite that with my new PayPal card image. Next, I want to export the background. So first, I'll turn off the visibility of each of the cards. Then I'll go to File, Save As, and in the dropdown, I'll choose the PNG file type. I'll call this Background, and I'll click the Just This One button. Now that I've created the images I need to get started, it's time to switch over to Power BI. I'll go to the Format tool, click Canvas Background, and click the box under Image. Find the background image, and click Open. I'm not sure why, but Power BI initially sets this to 100% transparency. So to make the image visible, I'll set the transparency slider all the way to 0%. Now I need some icons for my report. One site I like to use for icons is flaticon.com. I'll search for a credit card icon first. Here I'm looking for simple black and white outline icons, so I'll switch the color filter to black. I'd like something that looks like the front of a credit card. This one looks good. This site is royalty-free also, but here you're required to give attribution. They make the attribution part super easy. You can just click the Copy Link button. I'll then switch over to Power BI, and I'll create a new report page where I'll include all the attribution links. First, I'll add a text box, then paste in the link. You can see this is formatted as HTML, which won't work in a Power BI text box, but I'll leave it as is for now and come back later to clean it up. Next, I need an icon to represent checking. I don't want a bunch of checkmark icon results, so I'll type checkbook into the search and see what I get. I'm going to go with this one right here. I'll click the download icon, then click the copy link button again, and back over in Power BI, paste it into the text box. And I'll do the same thing one more time. This time I'm looking for a PayPal icon. This one here is perfect. I'll download it, copy the link, and paste it into Power BI. I have the 3 icons I need for now, but because I'm creating a dark theme report, I need the icons to be white outline instead of black. To change that, I'm going to use GIMP, which is a free graphics editor. After opening the icons in GIMP, all I need to do is go to Colors, choose Colorize, then click the color bar, and in the HTML notation box, I'll enter the hex code for white, FFF. Then I'll click OK, then OK again. I don't need the black version, so to save it, I'll choose the overwrite option. And I'll go through the same steps to color the other icons white. Once I've finished all 3 icons, I'll bring them into Power BI. To do that, on the Insert menu in the Elements section, I'll click Image, and the first icon I want to bring in is a credit card icon. That's much larger than I need, but I'll leave it as is for now until I bring in the other 2 icons. Again, I'll click Image, find the check icon file, open that, and I'll do the same for the PayPal file. Next, I'll start dragging the icons into position and resizing them. I'll grab the PayPal logo first and resize it to fit inside this rectangle. Now I'll grab the checkbook icon, drag it up, and again resize it to fit the rectangle. And I'll do the same for the credit card icon, but for this one, I'm going to move it up to the top. I'm just going to be staging it here for now. Now I need to copy the checkbook icon, and I'll drag it up here again just to stage it. What I need are 3 sets of each icon. and then I'll copy the PayPal icon and do the same. Drag that up to the top, and then I'll copy the credit card icon, and then drag that up to the top over here. It's time to add the card images I created. So I'll click the image button, and I'll open the credit card image, drag that into position, and then resize it. I'll bring in the checking card image next. I'll drag that below the credit card image, and resize it. As you can see, Power BI also has these pop-up guides that help you align and size objects. I'll drag that up to make some room, and then I'll go grab the PayPal card. Drag that down below the business checking card, and resize it. Next, I need to create the card visuals to show the totals for each payment type. So in the Visualizations pane, I'll click the card icon and drag that over. I'll click to expand report measures, and I'll check the box next to Expenses Checking to add the field to the card. I'll click the Format tool, and on the Visual tab, I'll click to expand callout value. I'll reduce the font size to 18 and change the color to white. I'll turn off the category label, then I'll click the General tab, expand title, turn on the title, then enter checking for the title text. In here too, I'll change the text color to white, and I'll set the horizontal alignment to be centered. Then, under Effects, I'll turn off the background. I'll resize that and drag it into position under the checking icon. I think the title is a little too big, so I'll click the Format tool again, then go back to the General tab, and under Title, I'll reduce the font size to 12. One of the downsides of using a background image is that I can't use the alignment tools in Power BI to align things with the rectangle here, so I'm just going to eyeball the alignment. That's roughly where I want it. So I'll copy this card, drag it under the PayPal logo, adjust the alignment slightly, and I'll go back to Report Measures, uncheck the box for the Expenses Checking measure, and check the box for Expenses PayPal. Then I'll click the Format tool, go to the General tab, click to expand title, and change the title text to PayPal. I still need to make a card visual for credit card expenses, so I'll copy the checking card, drag that below, and back in the Format tool, I'll click the General tab again, expand title, and change the title text to credit card. I'll switch to the field list. Actually, I didn't need to do that. I can just unselect Expenses Checking and click to select Expenses Credit Card. Now that I have a card for each expense type I'll be showing in this report, all I need to do is make one more copy of each. So I'll copy the checking card and drag it over here. Then I'll copy the PayPal card and drag it down here. And then credit card and drag it down here. Next, I'll go to the View tab and click Selection to open the selection pane. Let me close the Visualizations pane to make more room. I'm going to group together the visuals that will appear together. So first, I'll Control-click to select the credit card image, the checking icon, the checking card, the PayPal icon, and the PayPal card. Over in the selection pane, I'll click the three dots, then click Group. I'll name this group Credit Card. I need everything to be aligned the same, so I'll drag the checking card to the same location as the credit card. The reason it disappears is that it's underneath it in the hierarchy of layers in the report, but that's okay for what I need. Then I'll drag the PayPal card visual up into place, and I'll drag the PayPal icon down. I'll do the same with the credit card visual and the credit card icon. Now that everything is aligned, I can turn off visibility for the credit card group, and I'll select each of the objects that will be part of the checking group. I'll click the three dots again and choose Group, and I'll name this group Checking. And I'll repeat the steps with the PayPal image, the credit card icon, the credit card visual, the checking icon, and the checking card visual. Then I'll turn off visibility for the checking group, and I'll Control-click to select all of the remaining objects and group them. I'll name this group PayPal. Next, I'll expand the Visualizations tab and click on the table visual. I'll drag that into position and drag to stretch it. This table will show the expense details. Under Expenses, I'll click to select Category, Date, Description, and Amount. Now I'll click and drag to adjust the column widths. Then over in the Format tool, under the General tab, I'll turn the title on. And in the title text box, I'll type Transactions. I'll make that bold and change the text color to white. Then under Effects, I'll turn off the background. I'll switch to the Visual tab, click to expand values, and in the background color dropdown, there's no option for a transparent background, so I'm going to see if I can match the color, and I'll do the same for the alternate rows background color. Well, that's definitely too light. I'll try something a little darker. Still too light. Let me go one step darker. And now I'll change the text color for the data. That's too dark. I'll go one step lighter. Still too dark. Let me try one more step lighter. That's better. And I'll go to column headers, change the text color there, and change the background color to the same as the data rows. Now I can see that's not the right color gray, so I'm going to need to change that. Before I do that though, I'll expand Grid, then expand Border, and change the color to match the horizontal grid lines. I'd like the grid lines a little less pronounced, so I'll go back and switch those to a darker color, and I'll do the same with the border. That's better, but I think the rows look too cramped. So I'll go to Options and increase the row padding, then decrease the font size a bit. Okay, now I need to fix the row background color so that it matches the report background. To do that, I'm going to switch back over to PowerPoint. I'll right-click anywhere on the slide, click Fill, then Eyedropper, and now I'll click on the gray background. This sets the fill color to the background color. Then I'll right-click again, go to Fill, More Fill Colors, and copy the color code from the hex box. And I'll undo that since I don't want the PayPal card to be that color. After watching this, I realized I didn't need to go through all that work with the eyedropper. I could have just clicked on the shape and looked at the background color. And now I'll go back to Power BI, click the background color for the rows, click More Colors, and paste in the color code. I'll do the same for the alternate rows, and for the column headers background too. Now my table perfectly matches the background color. I'll expand it a little so the last row doesn't get cut off. I'm not seeing the totals row, so let me check that. I'll collapse a couple of these. The totals are on, but they're not showing. I'll click the background color dropdown and choose More Colors. That's strange. The totals row suddenly appeared. That must be a bug. Anyways, I'll paste in the color code here too, and I'll set the text color. Next, I need to create the card visual for total expenses, so I'll copy the checking card visual and drag that into position. Now, I'll click on the Format tool, expand callout value, increase that to 20, and make it bold. Then I'll switch to the General tab and change the title to Total Expenses. In the Fields pane, I'll uncheck the Expenses checking measure, and I'll click Total Expenses. I'll expand that a little to make sure it will accommodate larger numbers. Next, I'll click Area Chart in the Visualizations pane to add an area chart. I'll drag that underneath the Total Expenses card and expand it to fit the background rectangle. I'll add the short month name to the x-axis, and I'll add the expenses amount to the y-axis. Then I'll go to the Format tool. I'll turn the title off, and under Effects, I'll turn the background off. On the Visual tab, I'll expand x-axis, reduce the font size, and set the font color. I don't want to show the y-axis, so I'll turn that off. And then I'm going to stretch this so that it fits the background. Power BI doesn't give you a way to control whether the x-axis labels extend beyond the chart, so I'll need to leave it just inside the borders. Now, I'll go back to the Adobe site and get the color for the chart. I'll slide one of the circles over, then I'll copy that color code. Back in Power BI, I'll go to the Format tool again, and on the Visual tab, I'll click to expand lines, then expand colors, click the color dropdown, choose More Colors, and paste in the color code. Then I'll expand shade area and increase the transparency a little. I'll try 70%. That looks good. Now, I'll click on the stacked bar chart icon in the Visualizations pane to add a bar chart. And I'll drag that underneath the area chart. I'll stretch it to fit the background and make it smaller. And I'll make the area chart a little smaller too. I'll add the expenses category to the y-axis, and I'll put the expenses amount on the x-axis. I'm going to try the Format Painter again to copy the settings from the area chart and paste them onto the bar chart. And I'll stretch it to make it a little bigger. Now I'll go to the Format tool, expand bars, and here I'm going to click on the FX button to use the conditional formatting function. First, I'll switch the field to expenses amount. And I want a 3-color gradient, so I'll check the Add a Middle Color box. I'll go back to the Adobe site to get the colors for the bar chart. I'll drag the circles over the bars, one for the middle color, and also one for the darker color. I'll start with those, otherwise I'm going to forget which is which. I'll copy the color code for the darker color, then I'll go back to Power BI, click the color dropdown under the maximum value, click More Colors, and paste the color code into the hex box. Next, I'll click on the color dropdown for the middle color, then I'll go back to the Adobe site and copy the color code for that color. Switch back to Power BI, click More Colors, and paste in the color code. Then I need to do the same for the last color. So back to the Adobe site, I'll drag the circle down, copy the color code, and back in Power BI, I'll click the color dropdown for the minimum value, choose More Colors again, then paste in the color code. Then I'll click OK to close out of the conditional formatting window. I see Power BI added a legend, but I don't want that, so I'll turn that off. Also, instead of a reverse sort on amount, I want an alphabetical sort on the category. So I'll click on the 3 dots and change the sort axis to category. That's still reverse, so I'll go back and change the sort to ascending. And I want to add data labels, so I'll click the Format tool and I'll turn those on. I'll also expand spacing and increase the inner padding to maximum to make the bars as narrow as possible. Now when I use the scroll bar, I can see the gradient in effect on each of the bars on the chart. Next, I'll add the label for the pill shape. To do that, I'll go to the Insert menu and click Text Box. I'll make it a little smaller and drag it over to the colored part of the pill shape. Resize it a bit more. That looks good. Now I'll type Cash Back, select the text, make it bold, and change the font color to white. Then in the Format settings, I'll expand Effects and turn off the background. I'll adjust it a little to center it. There. Now I need to create a card visual to display the value, so I'll click the checking card, copy-paste that, then drag it down into position. I already have a label, so I'll click the Format tool, go to the General tab, and turn off the title. Then I'll switch back to Visualization Settings, and click the Cashback checkbox under Expenses. I'd like to show that as a dollar amount, so I'll go up to the Format dropdown, choose Currency, and set the decimal places to 0. I'll slide that down a little to center it vertically. Then I'll go back to the Format tool, expand callout value, and reduce the font size. I want to switch the other card values to currency also, so I'll click on the Expenses checking measure, and again, in the Format dropdown, I'll choose Currency. I'll do the same thing with the Expenses credit card measure, and I'll also do the same for the Expenses PayPal measure. Next, I need to create a slicer, so I'll click the slicer icon in the Visualizations pane, drag the slicer above the table, and resize it. Then I'll check the box next to Payment Method to add the field to the slicer, and I'll set the layout to dropdown. I'll click the Format tool and turn off the slicer header. Then I'll expand values, reduce the font size, and change the font color to match the data in the table. I'm going to try a shortcut again here. I'll click on the table, then I'll click Format Painter, and now I'll click on the slicer. Well, that didn't work, so I'll have to change the formatting manually. I'll go to the Format tool, expand values, and in the background color dropdown, I'll choose More Colors, and I'll copy the color code. I'll select the slicer, then back over in the Format tool, I'll expand background, click the color dropdown, choose More Colors, and paste in the color code. That gets me halfway there. Now, I'll switch over to the General tab, expand Effects, and turn off the background. That looks good. I'll slide the slicer down a little, and I think I'd like a little more padding for the rows in the table. So I'll select the table, go to the Format tool, expand Grid, expand Options, and increase the row padding to 10. And I'll stretch the table down slightly so the last row isn't getting cut off. It's time to create the interaction. So I'll go to the View menu and click on Bookmarks to open the Bookmarks pane. I'll close the Visualizations pane and the Fields pane to make more room on the screen. I see I have some formatting issues on my credit card and checking card visuals, so I'll take care of that first. Let me take a quick look to see if it affects all of the card visuals. No, looks like it's just the 2 I saw, so I'm going to try the shortcut again with the Format Painter. I'll select a card with the correct formatting, then go to the Home menu, click Format Painter, then turn off the checking group, turn on the PayPal group, and apply the format. That didn't work. It looks like I lost the formatting as soon as I clicked on the group visibility icon, so that's not going to work. I'll have to make the changes manually. I'll expand the Visualizations pane, click the Format tool, go to the General tab, then expand Title, and reduce the font size to 12, and also set the alignment to center. Next, I'll click on the checking card visual and do the same, reduce the font size, and set the alignment to center. Now I'll get back to creating the interactions. First, this is the PayPal group, so I'll select PayPal in the slicer. Then I'll turn off the visibility of the slicer. I want to be able to use the bookmarks to control the report, so I'm going to keep the slicer hidden. Now, I'll select the slicer along with the PayPal, checking, and credit card groups. In the Bookmarks pane, I'll click Add to add a new bookmark, and I'll name this Show PayPal. I'll click the 3 dots, and here, I'm going to choose Selected Visuals rather than All Visuals because I only want the bookmark to save the visibility of the groups and the slicer selection. Next, I'll create the bookmark for checking. So I'll turn off the PayPal group and turn on the checking group. I need to change the slicer, so I'll turn on visibility, then change the slicer to checking. Then I'll turn off the slicer again and select the slicer in the PayPal, checking, and credit card groups. I'll click the Add button to add a bookmark, and I'll name this Show Checking. Then I'll click the 3 dots and choose Selected Visuals. I'll do the same thing again to create the credit card bookmark. Turn off visibility for checking, turn on visibility for credit card. Make the slicer visible, change it to credit card, then turn visibility off. Then select the slicer along with the 3 groups. Click Add to add a new bookmark and name it Show Credit Card. Now, I can click through the bookmarks to change the filtering for each payment type. Perfect. Next, I'm going to set up the icons to trigger the bookmarks. First, I'll select the checking icon. I need to click twice to select it because the first click selects the group and the second click selects the object within the group. I'll go over to the Format pane and turn on the action, then expand action, and in the Type dropdown, choose Bookmark. And in the Bookmark dropdown, choose the Show Checking bookmark. Next, I'll click to select the PayPal icon, and I'll do the same thing. Turn on action, under Type, click Bookmark, and under Bookmarks, choose the Show PayPal bookmark. Now, I need to repeat the same steps for each of the other 2 groups. Click the PayPal icon, turn on the action, choose Bookmark under Type, and in Bookmarks, choose Show PayPal. And for the credit card icon, again, turn on action, choose Bookmark, and then choose the Show Credit Card bookmark. Then I'll turn off the checking group, turn on the PayPal group, and repeat the steps. Click the credit card icon, turn on the action, choose Bookmark under Type, and in Bookmarks, choose Show Credit Card. and then click the checking icon, turn on the action, choose bookmark under type, and in bookmarks, choose show checking. I just noticed the titles on the cards are bold, so I'm going to fix that. I'll click to select the credit card, go to the General tab, expand title, and turn off bold. Then I'll select checking and do the same. And I'll double check that none of the other card titles are bold. Looks good. Now, I'm going to walk through each icon to make sure I set up all the interactions correctly. I'll click through the icons on the left first. Okay, great. Next, I'll click through the icons on the right. Great, everything is working properly. Now, I need to add a year slicer. So I'll click the slicer icon on the visualizations pane, and I'll drag that up to the top right and make it a little smaller. I'll expand the fields pane, and in the date table, I want to select the year field. I'll go to the format pane, but first I need to change the slicer layout, so I'll expand the slicer size a little so that I can see the header. Then I'll click the down arrow and choose list. Now in the format tool, I'll expand slicer settings, and in the orientation dropdown, I'll choose horizontal. I'll make the slicer a little wider, then I'll reduce the height so that the slicer buttons are all in a single row. I'll move that down, then I'll go to the format tool, expand values, click the font color dropdown, and set the font color. Then I'll expand background, and in the color dropdown, I'll choose a dark gray. I'll go to the General tab, expand effects, and turn off the background. Now when I click through the slicer, I can restrict the data to a particular year. Next, I'll copy the cashback label, drag it to the upper left, and expand the text box. I'll change the text to business expenses, and I'll increase the font size to 18. This will be the title for the report. Since this report is more than one page, to keep the app feel, I'm going to add page navigation. To do that, I'll need some navigation icons. So I'll go back to flaticon.com and download icons for each, then change them all to white like I did earlier. Okay, I found my icons, downloaded them, changed them to white, and I've added them to the report page here on the left side. To add the navigation function, I'll click on the income icon, then in the format pane, I'll turn on the action and expand action. In the type dropdown, I'll click page navigation, and in the destination dropdown, I'll choose the income report page. Now, when I control-click the income icon, it takes me to the income report, which I haven't upgraded to the new design yet. I also need to finish the attribution page. While I go work on that, now that you know how to create a great report design, watch this video next where I'll show you all the ways you can share your shiny new report design with others. I'll see you over there.